It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Saunders. Alan, what is going on?
Zach, in light of today's Time Person of the Year article, is there any singer that you would like to call out for not dating you? I'm just going to throw this out here. I mean, is there anybody?
Yeah, Dua Lipa.
That you need to say, it's BS that they've been ignoring you all these years. Go for it.
Yeah, if Dua Lipa, somehow if this comes across her timeline at all or anything like that, check the Instagram DMs. There's going to be plenty of content there for you to read from me. So yeah, that's who I'm.
I actually saw that she tweeted her phone number today. So
yeah, that made me think of it. Yeah.
So you can text her a copy of this episode.
There we go.
What's up? And see what happens.
There we go. Hey. There we go. I see now.
The power of podcast.
She's currently with this Roman guy or Romaine. I'm not sure how this is pronounced. Romaine Gavros. Just started dating this year, so obviously not that serious. So I don't know. I mean, we could do something about that. But anyway, that's my number one.
I think you've got a shot.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that post tweet. No, I can't do it. I tried to say post, it didn't work out. That tweet, women want real podcasters these days. That's here we are. Alan, none of what
has nothing to do with him being a tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's because of his podcast.
Right, absolutely. And nothing that we've said in this first 2 minutes has anything to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers either. We are getting there. Don't worry. So stick around with this audience. But let's talk about some injury updates first and foremost. The injury report literally coming out right before we pressed record here. Obviously, Kenny Pickett rolled out. James Pierre rolled out as well. 4 players listed as questionable in Isaac Seumalo, Elandon Roberts, Najee Harris, Mason Cole. Maybe some varying degrees when you look at those 4 players on what side of questionable they are on for this game, though.
Yeah, I mean, James Pierre, I saw him in the locker room the other day, and he needed like a trainer to help him take his shirt off. I can't believe that he was playing through that. Kind of incredible, although he hasn't had a snap on defense in a couple weeks now, so it's just been special teams. I'd expect Darius Rush to get a hat there, and I think he's looked good when he's played, so that's not a huge loss. Harris, I don't understand because I saw him yesterday and he looked fine. I didn't expect that he would miss practice today. So that really, I think, muddies the waters there. I'm not sure what's wrong or why, but that's concerning that this was the only real practice of the week for the Steelers this week. They had a walkthrough yesterday. We're off on Monday that he didn't suit up in it. That's it's hard to see him playing. Isaac Seumalo, I think the same thing, probably, anytime a veteran player gets hurt, it's a short week. You kind of assume, like, if he couldn't finish the game, it's hard to see him suiting up in this game. And I think that about Seumalo. On the other hand, Elandon Roberts was able to practice today. And I don't know. Maybe he did try to continue with that groin injury. Maybe it's not that bad that he will be able to give it a go. I guess we'll see. Probably a little more hopeful there. And then Mason Cole, who finished the game, is also listed as questionable, but usually when a guy finishes a game, you think he'll probably be able to play in the next one. So I would say pretty confident in Cole, and then less so going down that list.
Okay. Cole was the one that I was going to, other than obviously Najee, because of him talking yesterday. You mentioned he had a little compression thing on his knee or whatever, but fully expected yesterday during our conversation that wasn't going to be a big deal and thought he would practice today. But the Mason Cole one to me is really where it gets muddied because obviously if Seumalo is going to be out, you think, okay, Herbig steps in there. But then if you're also missing Mason Cole, what does that do to the offensive line?
Spencer Anderson, I would assume then would play at guard. Or maybe Broderick Jones moves inside. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think at that point that there's much question that Chuks Okorafor is a better offensive lineman than Spencer Anderson is right now. It's just how how much has I know Broderick Jones played like at least some snaps of guard in training camp, but like not much.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's an idea. I think at that point you're hoping for ideas, right? Because Spencer Anderson, 7th round draft pick, is very versatile lineman, knows all 5 positions, but I mean, I don't think is a guy that anybody's been like chomping at the bit to see in terms of like future potential or anything like that. So I would at least entertain some other ideas, but I would assume that Cole is going to play.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as the Najee Harris thing goes, I want to bring this up to you because not that I want him to miss the game. Obviously, I don't think a lot of I don't think fans want him to miss the game either. But there is definitely a lot of intrigue in what Jaylen Warren would look like with a full workload. Do you share that intrigue, and how do you think it would go? Like, is he that type of runner that can take on that type of workload?
I mean, I don't know. I guess we're going to find out, right? I mean, I think it's interesting to find out. I don't think you want to this way, and I believe that the sum of the parts will be greater when you have both of them in there. I really do think they complement each other very well, and I think any running game with either one or the other would do worse, not better. But it'll be interesting to see how Jaylen responds to a bigger workload. If and I think it's probably safe to assume at this point that even if Najee Harris does play, that Jaylen Warren is going to get a bigger workload just because he's practiced and Najee hasn't, right? I mean, there's going to be stuff that they put in for this game that they worked on that Najee hasn't worked on, like So I would assume that at this point, no matter who plays, that this will probably be the first time we see the reps tilted towards 30 and instead of more closer to 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the other side of this on the Patriots side, no shortage of players on their injury list as well. Demario Douglas, Rhamondre Stevenson, Tayshaun Boutte all out. Devontae Parker, old friend, JuJu Smith-Schuster, questionable. Riley Reef and Sean Wade are out. Trent Brown and Christian Barmore are questionable on that side.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of knew Stevenson, right? I mean, that was pretty widely reported. The issues at wide receiver, I think, have gone a little bit less talked about. And really, I mean, if JuJu doesn't play, there's really, I mean, who then becomes our top wide receiver? Like, I mean, it really, I mean, not that the Patriots don't have quarterback problems, because they certainly do, but like, I think it's been a little bit untalked about how like Tyquan Thornton is the only healthy, and they have Jalen Reagor. Yeah, Jalen Reagor. Like that, those are the only fully healthy guys there. Like, that's not a very deep unit. So, I mean, I think this New England Patriots offense has a lot of problems, but certainly being injured isn't helping them.
Yeah, absolutely. That Stevenson injury looked. I'm surprised it was even like somewhat up in the
like I thought, like it was like a for sure. The second we saw the injury, there was no chance he was playing in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. But looking at this matchup, Alan, it raises the question. You wrote this as part of an article that you put out. You look at the Steelers' position right now, and again, every time that they lose a football game, it's like the sky is falling right now. Still kind of feels that way. They lost to the Cardinals at home by multiple possessions. It probably doesn't get like lower in terms of the feeling right now surrounding the team, despite being 7-5. So would you rather be in that position, still very much battling for a playoff spot in the thick of things, granted, again, without your starting quarterback, all these other injuries that they've had to endure, or where the Patriots are, very much looking like the team that's going to pick in the top 5 with so many questions surrounding them, from obviously a roster construction standpoint, but also the future of head coach, as crazy that seems to say, with Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I kind of wrote this today, like, for all the Steelers' problems, there's nothing that the Patriots have that they would trade for what the Steelers. Would you rather be 2-10 than 7-5 right now when you're struggling? Like, no. Like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I mean, maybe the Patriots are going to get to draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, but like we've seen time and time again that is not like. I think there is some portion of the Steelers fan base that has grown a bit tired with being in the middle, and I understand that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how many times do you have to watch the Cleveland Browns draft first and screw it up to realize that is not a golden ticket? Sure. Just because you draft high and just because you take that high quarterback, it doesn't. I mean, like it's no sure thing. There's no sure thing. Look at the Carolina Panthers this year. Like, you don't have to go back all the history. This year, the first quarterback, the number one pick, he stunk. Like he's been awful. Like and I like it's not a magic solution to be bad. And there are plenty of teams that get down there and stay down there for years and years and years. And I think it's I saw this on Twitter. Would you rather have Mike Tomlin or Bill Belichick as your head coach right now? I mean, it's a very interesting question.
Yeah, it is. See, the thing with Belichick to me has always been being able to separate the head coach from the talent evaluator. I think there's a lot of questions about his evaluation process and the drafting that they've done recently that I question more than the on-field coaching. Man, I'm gonna get burned for this either way in the comments. I might say Tomlin.
I think I would too, right? Like, I think part of it for me is just age. I think I feel more like both when you're talking about two coaches that are both obviously separated from their success by both years and personnel. Brady's not coming back. Ben's not coming back. Their success has been, the Patriots been in the playoffs. Both teams, I think, have been in the playoffs once since 2020 or 2019, something like that. Like, I mean, I think they're in pretty similar spots as teams until this year when the Patriots have really bottomed out. But like Tomlin is in his 50s and Belichick is in his 70s. Like, I think to me, I have a lot more faith. And that's one of the reasons why I think I personally am very hesitant to like give up on Mike Tomlin as a coach, is that like people say like, oh, well, it's very uncommon for a coach to have like this many years between Super Bowl wins. It's very uncommon for a coach to be with a team this long and find success. And that's true. However, it was a historical outlier when the Steelers both hired Mike Tomlin at his age, and then he had that success. He's the youngest head coach to ever win a Super Bowl. So if somebody is going to have a long time between Super Bowls in their career, it's going to be the guy who was the youngest when he won it. Like, yeah, no, Tony Dungy didn't win another Super Bowl 14 years after he won his first one at 64. Well, that's not shocking. Like I just think that like you got to take into account the people here. I think Tomlin's age and like, let's be like Mike Tomlin is a fairly with it 50-something. Like this is a guy that is an active, engaged, vibrant personality. Like he's not at all looked like a man or act like a man that is checked out and is sort of has been passed by the league. I don't see that at all. So I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like it would be foolish for the Steelers to like just assume that Mike Tomlin can't do it at this point. But I have a lot of I don't know. I feel like if I'm the Patriots. Like, do you think he's going to be back next year? And if you're the Patriots, would you want him back?
No, I think one way or another, they find a way to part ways with it being as cordial as possible. Whether, if he still wants to coach, I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but I think that you find a way to, maybe recoup a draft pick or something for him. I don't know what you do. It's going to be very weird because the other part of this too, and I mentioned like the GM stuff is like right now, I think you need to bring in somebody, even if Belichick is staying on as the coach, to take that aspect of things away, because that has clearly that's been a broken part of the Patriots process for several years now, is the way that they draft. I just don't think they've drafted very well.
And I think it's also the part of the process that has caused the most conflict between him and ownership. And here's another big difference between Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick. First of all, Bill Belichick is kind of a jerk. Like he does not ever make two bones about being kind of a jerk. Well, when you're kind of a jerk and you go 2-10, people turn on you. Like that is the thing that happens. I don't see Bill Belichick getting the sort of personal rope that Mike Tomlin is going to get. Like people talk about like, oh, why do the national media love Mike Tomlin and the Steelers fans hate him? Well, it's because Mike Tomlin is a likable person. Like that is a big reason for it. Like Bill Belichick is not. So I think you see that. But also Bill Belichick fought for and demanded a level of absolute control in that franchise. When things go wrong, there is no one else to point to. Like he is the cause of all of their problems. Mike Tomlin can look at this team and be like, I didn't build it. I helped, but like this was a collaborative process. Like Art Rooney is involved. Kevin Colbert was involved. Omar Khan was involved even before he was the general manager. Like the Steelers build their team with a team and they fail as a team. And I think that makes it a lot harder to single out Mike Tomlin like, oh, it's all your fault. Like it's not. I really look at the collection of talent of these two teams. And when you look and say, what happened, right? And the Steelers, you can be like, well, look, some salary cap stuff wasn't great. Their star players retired. They had to rebuild. We'll see how they're doing it on offense. Obviously, they were able to do it well on defense. Like, there's good and bad, and you can point to a lot of different reasons and a lot of different people for those reasons. With the Patriots, it ultimately just all falls to Belichick. There is no one else.
Right. Yeah, hey, add Andy Weidel, who did the draft board for the Steelers this year, to the mix as well. But that brings up a good point, just in terms of like it put in my mind too, as you were mentioning, the drafting, how many people, not even just drafting, free agency, how people are brought in, the roster construction aspect of things. I'm all here for arguments in terms of, can the Steelers win another Super Bowl with Mike Tomlin? I get it, like talking about what the ceiling of them under a Mike Tomlin is. But one thing that I will argue as well, and I'm curious as to your take on this, I think they have a significantly higher floor with him as the head coach, and they've continued to prove that when you look at the rosters that he's gotten to at least 500. And that's why I look at that as, again, he doesn't want to talk about it. He hates when people bring it up, him not having a losing season. But I think that's more indicative of that, him being able to elevate the team's floor. Again, I'm all here for the arguments of, can they win a Super Bowl? But I don't think that can really be argued.
Yeah, no, I don't think it can be argued at all. I think that's evident. In fact, like, and again, I guess the question is what is the value of that? Not whether he does. I mean, I think him doing it is clear. Like, there's no question that the single biggest reason that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season is Mike Tomlin. Like, no doubt in my mind. Like, you can say that, yes, he had Ben Roethlisberger for the early part of his career, and that obviously played a lot into it. He inherited a very good team when he was a young head coach from Bill Cowher, and that definitely played a part in it as well. But if you look at what he did in 19, what he did last year, like, these have been some bad football teams that Mike Tomlin has gotten to 500. There is no question that a big part of that is Mike Tomlin. I think the question is, what is that really worth to the Steelers? And is being where the Steelers are better than if they had just taken that 2019 team, not traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick, and been god awful? Like, if they had started whatever, like every bad player they could find, sat all the stars down, and just tanked out the 19 season, would they have been better off for doing that? I'm not sure. Like, it depends, obviously, on what you do with those draft picks. And I don't think that end career Kevin Colbert was doing a necessarily very good job with the resources he was given. Right. The Steelers 2020 draft stunk. The Steelers 2021 draft was criminal. Like, there's no, I don't see that playing out that way, but I guess you can make an argument there.
Yeah. Well, that last point was kind of, if you remember, somebody asked us on YouTube a couple weeks ago what the difference was, if anything, between their evaluation process now as opposed to those last few years of Kevin Colbert. And yeah, listen, I mean, with giving him all credit for what he accomplished in his career, I was not a fan of the end of Kevin Colbert's career with the way that they went about the drafts. It seemed like they were maybe, and I don't even know that the evaluation process was good, but it seemed like certainly their philosophy was throwing all chips in on the last few years of Ben Roethlisberger when you draft a running back in the first round just to try to accomplish the fact or improve on the fact that you were dead last in the NFL without really improving the offensive line at all, just thinking you can plug in a running back. That leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought the process was poor. I said it at the time. I thought the trade up for Devin Bush was bad.
Yeah,
like, there was a lot there that did not go well. And again, like, in New England, I think their drafts have been bad, but you can't blame anyone other than Bill Belichick. In Pittsburgh, who's to say that with better drafting, and not just like, and look, Mike Tomlin's involved in the draft process. I'm not absolving him of this. Like, if you're really mad that the Steelers picked Najee Harris over Travis Etienne or Kenny Pickett over, well, actually, there really wasn't another good quarterback in that class, so I don't know. But, like, yeah, I guess
Brock Purdy all the way down the 7th round.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. Well, how about, yeah. So, like, Okay, but like that, sure, that's probably Tomlin, but like it's not like Tomlin who is responsible for the knowledge that, like, hey, running back position being historically valued across the NFL because like it takes a good offensive line to have a good running back. And by the way, you don't have the first half of that equation, so you are throwing away this draft pick by using it on Najee Harris. Like that's not Mike Tomlin's job. He's a coach. Like that is like he's supposed to be like, yes, I like this guy. I can work with him. I think he can be a good running back in the NFL. And I don't think that's all true about Najee Harris, right? The problem was the process, like the lack of understanding about what was going on around the league and the way that things were being valued and the way it lined up with the Steelers roster. And I think you're right. I think Belichick needs help, and I don't think he's has the ego that. And it's funny too because I think a lot of Steelers fans have this idea that Mike Tomlin has to like has this fragile ego where he has to be the smartest guy in the room. It's like, no, the New England Patriots are structured like a team that has someone that has to be the smartest guy in the room because he is in control of everything and he runs everything. Mike Tomlin operates within a team concept that is he's ceding lots of control to other people. That's not how people with big egos that have to be the smartest guy in the room are willing to operate. Like, I don't know. I think it's a very interesting contrast here. I think it's the only interesting thing about this football game.
I agree. Albert Breer brought up 3 scenarios on Rich Eisen's show for New England and Bill Belichick, but basically all of them end up with him parting because it's like you bring in somebody with like a GM, another person in power to maybe take that away from him. The other one was like clearly the defense still playing well under Bill Belichick, which is his side of the football, but the offense. So then you bring in like an offensive mind, but is he okay with that power struggle? So like some way, something has to give here where Bill Belichick is losing some power in some way, shape, or form. And at that point, does he just walk away?
Yeah. And here's another interesting thought is that maybe the answer to that question is neither. Like maybe the answer to that question is like, you need an offensive minded head coach to have success in the current version of the National Football League, or at the very least, you need a head coach that has an elite offensive coordinator with him if he's not that. And I don't think that, well, I mean, we know the Steelers don't, but I don't think that neither of these, the best commonality between these two guys is their offensive coordinator hires haven't been very good recently. And they're defensive-minded head coaches.
Going back to the beginning of the season, somebody asked, and this was on around the 412, but we had somebody ask us if we thought Mike Tomlin could still be the coach of a Super Bowl winning team. And both of our answers, Tyler and I's, was not the way that the Steelers are currently constructed because we don't think that they have a good enough offensive mind in that room to pair with Mike Tomlin to be able to do so.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's clear the Patriots don't have that either. And, the other interesting thing about the success of this New England defense, and now I'm going to give Belichick credit, they don't have any good players. Like, who's the star of this New England defense?
Yeah, they lost Judon. I mean, the one guy that should be.
Yeah, right. Like that. I mean, there's nobody over there that's like, making offensive players shaking their boots, like in terms of the talent level. It's very clear that the X's and O's are still elite in terms of Belichick running this defense. I think there's still something there for people to latch. Like if you're, I'm going to try, like probably not Carolina because Tepper's a maniac, but like, like let's say you're, I'm trying to spitball a good fit here. Let's say you're the Chargers, okay, and you're going to fire Staley. I think you could make a case to hire Bill Belichick and say he's not going to be the GM, and he's going to bring in, I don't know, Kubiak as his offensive coordinator, or steal him from San Francisco. Okay, like I think, you could sell me on that, right? Is like
Kubiak and Herbert. I'm already on board.
This could work, right? You got the guy to fix your quarterback. You got a guy and a head coach that's going to fix our defense. He's not going to be the GM, so he's not going to ruin our drafts like he did New England. Like I could get on board with that. I'm not sure that I can with the way New England's currently structured.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I am so fascinated by what New England does after the season because, like, again, they're probably going to be picking top 5. Do they let Belichick make that pick?
I don't know
with the way that he's drafted lately.
Drake May,
we did get
will look great in a New England Patriots uniform. He is a fantastic quarterback, and I think
I don't want that to happen, but also like immediately got to rip that jersey off Mac Jones. Just Drake May wears number 10, so
that's great. In fact, you can like have people turn them in for new nameplates. You don't even have to.
We did get a question from YouTube I wanted to bring up because, one thing that we talked about from Sunday's game that you weren't a fan of was the Steelers play sequencing. They would have a successful first down run and then kind of shoot themselves in the foot with what they did on second down. And then, setting up a bad third down, then they weren't able to convert on third down. But somebody asked if you could kind of elaborate on that and expand on what you meant by the sequencing of the plays.
Yeah. So when I'm talking about sequencing, what I mean is does the first down play into the defense's response to the second down play? And I just didn't see that a lot where let me go through the play sheet here. The Steelers started out this game with a really nice script, and that's something we hammered Matt Canada for, and I think really that Mike Sullivan deserves a lot of credit for. This first drive, right? It was start out throwing the ball, George Pickens, then a 9-yard run to Najee, okay? Then you're back to the air, back to Pickens, okay? Then another Najee run for 5 yards, and then they get to 2nd and 5, okay? And they're at the Arizona 11, and they throw 2 times and kick a field goal. So I felt like they were doing good, and then they got to the red zone part of their play sheet. They got off the script, and then things fell apart. Second drive, 7-yard run for Najee Harris on first down. Throw on 2nd and 3. Kenny can't find anybody. He runs away. There was 2 guys wide open, Deontay and Najee. It was bad quarterback by Kenny. Third down, bad shotgun snap by Mason Cole. Punt. It's a missed opportunity to catch. What every offensive coordinator dreams of in their sleep is please, guys, give me the 2nd and short. I've got so many good ideas.
Yeah.
Short. 2nd and short can't be your worst down. That's got to be your best down. You've got to make people pay for letting you get to 2nd and short. And the Steelers screwed it up over and over again in this game. To me, that's an indictment of play calling.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I was confused, and we talked about it. This doesn't necessarily the sequencing of things, but there wasn't a point in this game until very late where the Steelers were totally out of it enough where they had to go away from the run, and I just felt like they did for whatever reason.
Yeah, especially early. They were hammering Arizona early on the run, but they were still throwing half the time. I didn't quite understand it, and I didn't think it worked out. I thought the script was good, but then the script was balanced, and that was okay. But man, when you see you're ripping off 7, 8, 9-yard runs, I think you got to keep going to it a little bit harder than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Kevin Brocious here real quick as well, brought up, offensive line stuff and kind of getting into the off season, which I don't know if we want to do yet, but which 2024 center or right tackle was appealing, assuming that the Steelers were to move Jones back to left tackle. Should we even be making that assumption though about Broderick Jones moving to left tackle?
No. And I also don't think that you need to draft a tackle for a side either. Pick the best tackle. It doesn't matter. Figure it out. I think center, back to the positional, discussion. If you're taking a center in the first round, he better be an all-pro. That.
Yeah.
That's the bottom.
I mean, Creed Humphrey didn't go in the first round. It's
yeah. He maybe should have.
He should have, but I'm just saying.
I think that Creed Humphrey probably should have gone in the first round.
I mean, if that's redrafted right now, absolutely. Where do you think that
he is an all-pro? That is what you want. Yeah. That is the kind of guy that you pick as a center in the first round. I think it's a good center class. I do. It's not that deep. There aren't 5 or 6 of them, but I think it is a.
That's what I was gonna say. I think there's 4 that go on day 2.
Yes. I really like the center class. Cedric Van Pran from Georgia, Zach Frazier from West Virginia, Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, and Graham Barton from Duke, I think are probably all day 2 picks. And I think will all be basically plug and play starters. Guys that'll play maybe not week 1 their rookie year, but pretty much will be able to play pretty early and be longtime starters at the center position. And I think the Steelers absolutely need to find a way to make sure they get one of those guys. Tackle's tough though, because the Steelers are not going to be drafting high in the first round. So when you're late in the first round, you're looking at guys with problems and sometimes there's good value there and sometimes there isn't. It's just a lot I think it's a little bit too early to really say how the draft is going to fall to really determine whether the value for tackle will be there for the Steelers in the first round or not. However, they also need a corner, and it's an extremely deep corner class. Maybe not as deep as last year because that was sort of historic, but it's a good deep corner class again, and I think they'll be able to find one of those if they want one too.
Yeah, Barton out of Duke, the center, is the one that's kind of been rising. I've seen a ton of buzz about him.
Talking him up the other day, which means he will now be the favorite of every Twitter draft pick forever.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the guys that
Brugler is like their patron saying, I don't know. I think Dane does a good job. I think we can disagree a little bit more and not have so much groupthink. I really think that Frazier, to me, fits the mold of a Pittsburgh Steelers center the way they've traditionally played the position the best, and that he's a butt kicker. And he's a badass. And like, I think that's like, he is not as athletic as Marquise Pouncey was, but he is as tough as Marquise Pouncey was. And I think that's what the Steelers generally have valued at the center position. Van Pran is the athlete. He's much more athletic like Pouncey, but I don't think he has that, I don't think he has that mindset. I haven't seen it anyway. I don't know him. Obviously, I've never, but I will get to know him through the Senior Bowl and the Combine, and we got all that coming up, man. It's starting to bubble up in the brain, the off season, but we got a lot of good football ahead of us. But I don't think Van Pran is as tough maybe as some of those other guys.
Okay,
Greg Nugent from Michigan is another one that I hear people talk about. I haven't really watched him enough to have like a strong opinion about him though.
Yeah, this was a nice little tease for what the conversations are going to be like, as we get towards that time of year. But yeah, still very much in the thick of things here at 7-5. Alan, tell the people where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on Twitter, PGH Steelers Now, SteelersNow.com. Steelers Now Plus, use promo code Alan10, get 10% off, at least until the end of the year. I don't know. We'll see how long we can keep that going. And then like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's it.
There we go. I will echo the like and subscribe, and also tell you to hit that notification bell so you don't miss when a new episode of this is posted, pregame stouts posted, any of the sights and sound stuff, all the video content put up on the YouTube page here. Also, leave us a comment down below, ask us questions, comment on anything that we talked about during today's episode. If you were listening somewhere else, whether it's Apple, Spotify, etc., leave us a 5-star review over there as well. I'm Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in and taking another ride on the Steelers afternoon drive.